I think the movement towards tokenization is necessary. I think we need to move very rapidly to doing that. We would be reducing fees. We would do more democratization.
Hi, everyone. I'm fresh off the plane from Davos. And before I get too far away from my time there, I wanted to make sure and give you my 4 takeaways from Davos 2026.
BlackRock CEO, Binance, and Ripple all talking about tokenization of real-world assets. Davos 2026 is all about integrating digital assets into the new financial system. And in this video, we are about to uncover what that means for XRP holders, what awaits for the future of cryptocurrencies, and how that's going to affect the price of BTC, XRP, and other digital assets. There is absolutely no time to waste, so let's go straight to the point.
I think the movement towards tokenization is necessary. I think we need to move very rapidly to doing that. We would be reducing fees. We would do more democratization by reducing more fees if we had all investments on a tokenized platform that you could move from a tokenized money market fund to equities and bonds and back and forth.
You know, I do think the first poster child of tokenization is really stable coins. You saw, as Brian observed, massive growth last year. At Ripple, we very much focused on building the bridges between traditional finance, as Bill was describing, what we now call TradFi, and decentralized finance. And that has meant working with a lot of the banks around the world to kind of build those bridges.
I think tokenization is a huge one. I'm talking with probably a dozen governments about tokenizing some of their assets, because this way the government can actually realize the financial gains first and use that to develop those industries, extractions, trading markets, etc.
They are giving us the blueprints. Everything will be tokenized on a blockchain. And when you think about scalability, the XRP Ledger is one of the few blockchains that can handle tokenization of real-world assets. Now, let's not forget about Stellar. You can also tokenize basically anything on Stellar. There's no limitations. It's also a very energy-efficient blockchain. Stellar has a very similar technology to the XRP Ledger. In fact, for years, a lot of people called Stellar a fork of the XRP Ledger, although I disagree. For those who don't know, the XRP Ledger was created by David Schwartz, Jed McCaleb, and Arthur Brito. A few years later, Jed McCaleb left from Ripple and actually proceeded to found Stellar blockchain. So one of the most brilliant minds in the entire crypto space decided to create a new blockchain, and that's called Stellar blockchain. And a quick distinction, XRP is more enterprise-driven, while Stellar blockchain is focused on micropayments. Stellar's motto is about banking the unbanked. And when I think about tokenizing real-world assets into a blockchain, I immediately know that Bitcoin can't handle tokenization of real-world assets. Ethereum itself has extremely high gas fees and is also a very slow and outdated technology. So when you think about alternatives, it only comes to mind energy-efficient blockchains. I can list a few of them: the XRP Ledger, Stellar blockchain, as I already mentioned. We also have Algorand, HBAR, XDC. For the record, Hedera is not a blockchain in the traditional sense. It's more like a hash graph. So there will be a handful of winners that have been already decided. Now, besides the technology, we need to understand regulation. Which assets are aligned with regulation? Which assets are actually aligned with the right political entities? And not by a coincidence, all the assets I just mentioned have some sort of connection with global leaders, institutions like the World Economic Forum, Bank of International Settlements, International Monetary Fund. At some point, all of the blockchains I just mentioned were actually integrated into the financial system at some degree, whether it's tokenizing assets, moving value. Once you understand those blockchains are backed by solid financial enterprises that are aligned with the winning powers, victory becomes inevitable. So this is my investment strategy for 2026. And by the way, Denelle Dixon, Stellar CEO, which is one of the most wonderful leaderships in the entire crypto space, she just came back from Davos 2026. Now let's see what she has to say about it.
There, I wanted to make sure and give you my 4 takeaways from Davos 2026. Davos had every large corporation, bank, and every finance giant. And it is clear that financial services are the killer use case for blockchain technology. And maybe even more importantly, what's also clear, the true winner in Davos this year was digital assets. It was talked about across the board, the usefulness of digital assets, how they can make not just the businesses move more seamlessly, but how they can benefit the retail side and the SME side. So it was really great to see that this has now just become mainstream conversation about how digital assets can play such a role in this killer use case for financial services. There's a recognition that the tech is here, but there's still a gap for traditional finance on how to integrate it and what are the real risks associated with it. And one of the constant themes that I was engaged in conversation about was privacy. Institutions care about the privacy of their information. They also care about privacy on the retail side, but we need to be able to make sure in 2026 to solve this for them and to make them much more comfortable with using this technology so the risk of their information and their competitive information getting out is not going to be there for them. Trust was the word that every traditional financial corporation talked about when it came to this tech stack. We need to be able to prove to the industry that blockchain can be a trusted tool. So that's part of our remit moving forward. This is something that all of us collectively really need to go out and demonstrate. And it's not talking the talk, it's actually walking the walk. There was so much discussion about the importance of open public networks and the fact that infrastructure needed to remain open without gatekeepers and toll booths on the edge. So it needs to be much like the internet that we use on the content side of the web. We need to be able to maintain that openness, those permissionless networks, so that everyone feels comfortable using the technology. We don't want financial infrastructure to be able to use this tech stack and then end up in these closed verticals all along the way, because that just sort of ruins the whole game of it. So those are my 4 takeaways from Davos 2026. And we have already started working on each of these issues, and I really want to work together as an ecosystem to be able to bring this to life.
Key takeaways here. Number 1, privacy. Think about banks integrating blockchain technology. There must be a layer of privacy. They don't want their clients' data and big customers and financial institutional data to be leaked out on a blockchain. Remember, blockchains by default are public networks. This means transparency, but it also means that every single information, every single transaction that's executed on a permissionless public blockchain is available for everyone to see. So banks need private ledgers. Can you guess which one of those blockchains have a private version that works seamlessly? The XRP Ledger has a private version of the network that is designed for enterprises use case. This problem has already been solved by Ripple's technology. Second, she talks about trust. Trust is a major issue in the crypto space. It's not that hard to connect the dots. Projects invited to the table, although digital assets were at the epicenter of Davos 2026, only a very few selected group of enterprises that are active participants on the crypto space have been invited to the World Economic Forum. It's all connected to the blockchains I mentioned before. Denelle Dixon was a speaker at Davos 2026. Brad Garlinghouse was sharing the stage with the director of the Central Bank of France. So at this point, adoption is beyond what is the better technology. It's not only about which blockchain is the most energy efficient or which network can deliver faster finality without downtime. It's also about political alliance and trust. And Ripple and Stellar are indeed trusted by global financial enterprises. They have been in the game long enough to have trust. They've been engaging with central banks around the world, releasing test pilots for CBDCs in their own networks all around the world. This breeds trust. And this is exactly what governments, central banks, and financial enterprises are looking for. Crypto adoption is around the corner, but that will be a painful transformation. Sadly for the industry, most projects will simply disappear. The Clarity Act is about wiping out the majority of cryptocurrencies, so you need to be positioned properly. This is not a financial advice, but you should do your own research. Understand who is behind Ripple, who is behind Stellar, what are their partnerships about, who has been successfully testing both on Stellar blockchain and on the XRP Ledger. Franklin Templeton, one of the largest investment firms in the world, has been actively tokenizing on Stellar blockchain. And this has not happened yesterday, this has happened almost 5 years ago. And this summarizes exactly what Denelle Dixon is talking about, trust. Now, if you enjoyed this video, let me know in the comments, are you bullish about XRP's adoption? Do you hold more XRP or XLM? Let me know in the comments. And if you want to trade crypto without KYC, you want to buy spot XRP with Throttle Code Wallet, get access to derivatives markets, I'm going to drop a link in the description of this video. It's Bitunix Exchange. That's the exchange partner of this channel. So you're going to find the link in the description of this video. Thank you, everyone. I'm going to see you in the next one.